What if you could write the ending to your story? What if you could script your life? That is the premise of today's episode on the Bring the Mothers Home podcast. My friends, if you are a purpose driven female entrepreneur who is passionate about building your own business and fulfilling your mission without sacrificing your family, then we invite you to join the Bring the Mothers Home movement, where we'll help you gain clarity, confidence, and courage to rise to your full potential and become who you were made to be. I'm your host, Joy Anderson, and this is the Bring the Mothers Home podcast. So I had that question come to me at the end of May 2023. But before we dive into that, I want to talk about where it came from. So, as you remember our story, in February 2021, I got this vision of the mountains, lakes, and evergreens. And I could be living my best life up in the mountains. I could be homeschooling my kids. I could be, active and healthy and just honestly, just the happiest I've ever been. That was what was in the vision for me. This idea of, oh my gosh, I believe this is a next step for the Bring the Mothers Home movement, but I have no clue how to get there. But with that, I wanted it more than anything. Do you remember where the previous episode just left off, where I talked about my ordinary world, right? Where, every day felt the same. It felt like a Groundhog's Day, felt like I could never fully transform, felt like I was stuck in this vicious cycle of food addiction and not knowing how to overcome that. And perhaps you feel like you are in the same place. If you didn't listen to the previous episode, go listen to it. In fact, binge watch all of them from the beginning. So there I was with this beautiful future that I could have. I felt like it was my next step if I would accept it, if I would walk toward it, not knowing how to get there, but knowing that that was the future for me if I chose it. And so I, at first, was like, oh my gosh, that seems like an impossible dream. That seems like a very hard thing to do. A healthy health journey is not an easy thing to go on. And I've been there and done it so many times. It's not working out. Right. And so as I, had this kind of refusal of this call, it became evident to me that there was truly no other path for me to go on. It was this mountains, lakes, and evergreens. That was my future. So I had the call to adventure. I kind of like sat back and reluctantly, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I can make that through. But I pursued. I realized, this is something I have to have. This is something that if I don't go on, I will always wonder, what if? And interestingly, as I went on that journey, and you heard all about it, so you can go listen to our previous episodes to learn all about how we did find the home in the mountains, lakes, and evergreens that was on 8 acres, sitting on a lake, up in the mountains of Hope, Idaho, northern Idaho, surrounded by evergreens, and just what a beautiful dream I believed I was walking into. And in fact, it turned into a nightmare. So watch our previous episodes to learn all about that. But after I went through that experience, a very difficult year, I thought it was my best year and learned it was going to be the most difficult year I'd ever gone through. After I went through that experience and came back to Arizona, I realized there's a story here. There is a message here. This is an insane thing, and it's actually my true life, right? But it feels like I'm living a story. It feels like I'm, this character that went on this, mission to go live her big life, her best life. But here's what's crazy. As I started thinking, I feel like this is a book. I feel like you need to write this story. I feel like there are lessons here that need to be shared. I went down the process of hiring a writing coach and getting my book proposal ready by January 31st of this year. And in that whole process, I learned about something called the hero's journey. Now, many of you are probably familiar with the hero's journey. It is a proven framework that has been built for millennia, just like hundreds of thousands of years. Like stories have been told using this hero's journey framework. It's the concept that in every story, you have a man or a woman in the ordinary world, and they have a call to adventure, right? They have a call to rectify the problems in their world, or a call to adventure to go achieve something or transform into something. And and they have this first like reluctance, like, oh, I don't know that I can do that, right? I don't know that I'm enough to do that. How could I ever do that, right? Or it's comfortable in my ordinary world. It might not be perfect, but at least it's comfortable. And then they meet a mentor and finally agree to go on this call to adventure to go achieve, transform, right the wrongs that were happening in their world. And every story since ever has been built on this framework. And then they go on this epic journey. They have tests, enemies, and allies. They have all the struggles. They have the problems come in, they have the friends to help. They go defeat their biggest fear. They might slay the dragon, or they might conquer their foe. And and then they come back thinking, okay, I'm ready to come back. I've done the thing. But along the way, before they can get home, they realize they've actually not fully transformed yet into an actual hero. They just achieved the thing. And so now they need to fully have that last transformation. It's called the resurrection. At the very end of the story, it's about the 5% mark, where they battle again their greatest fear. They finally overcome it. They thought they thought they had done it before, but now they have to fully defeat their foe, or fully transform into who they're made to be. And then they become the hero in the story. And then when they come back, they have this special knowledge about, oh, this is how I transformed. I must now share this with other people. This is the hero's journey framework that has been proven across every movie, every book, every TV episode since the beginning of time. Like back in the days when they were telling stories around campfires, right? And we didn't have the media we do today. They began these stories with once upon a time. There was and they introduced the character in the ordinary world. I want to map this for you for just a second to prove to you this is the framework of pretty much every movie ever. So think about Lion King. This is actually my favorite movie to map this to. In Lion King, we've got, of course, Simba, who's in the ordinary world, right? And he's got his father Mufasa, and he's got Rafiki, but he's got his family together, and everybody's happy. He knows eventually he's going to become the king, but at this point, he's just Simba, right? And then, though, he has that call to adventure. And so what happens is in this situation, his father dies. So this isn't like, I'm going to go achieve or transform. This is something is wrong in my world, and I need to rectify this. Like, I'm not okay that my father died, right? And I have this horrible moment, but he can't deal with that. So he decides to leave Pride Rock. He obviously knows that he needs to go be king, but he's refusing that. So he leaves Pride Rock. Nala comes back and is like, hey, you have to help us. And he's refusing. He's reluctant, right? Because he's so fearful. The whole refusal of the call, reluctance of the call is all based on fear. I want you to think through like any movie ever, right? And walk kind of this path, and I'll kind of walk it through with Lion King. But it is the most beautiful framework because it's built on the human experience. I'll talk about that in a second. And then, of course, what happens is Simba meets Rafiki, right? And he tells Simba that his father was never dead, but he always lived inside of him, and that you can always learn from mistakes. And so it's okay to go back, right? So Simba finally crosses the first threshold from his ordinary world and goes back to the world he used to know, which was, Pride Rock. So he goes back to Pride Rock, but of course it's changed, right? The Pride Rock that he knows it is no longer there. The one that he now is entering is this almost underworld of, the hyenas are ruling Pride Rock. Everything is horrible. And as he goes in there, he realizes like, this is not okay. And he has all of these tests, right? Is all these tests to defeat the hyenas and things like that. But when Scar hits Sarabi, which is Simba's mother, he finally realizes, like, I can no longer live this way. I have to become king. I have to right the wrongs that were done before. And he gets ready to prepare to fight Scar. And then that's when Scar tells him, hey, so this is at the very bottom. It's usually 50% of the movie where you're facing your greatest fear. The character is facing the greatest fear, the greatest, the thing they set out to do, right? They set out to slay the dragon. And it's about 50% of the movie. It's at the very bottom of this circle arc. And, Scar says, actually, I killed your father, right? And then it's like, ah, and of course he's got to try to overcome this, he's got to defeat Scar. But then um, Simba says, or at that point, then Simba decides instead of letting Scar fall to his death and he kills him, like he pushes him off the cliff, but it doesn't kill him. And as he comes back to rule, the hyenas kill Scar, right? So that's like the resurrection, because Simba never killed Scar, right? But he realized, I am not that person. I'm not the person. I'm not going to repeat Scar's things of killing um, Mufasa. So he's not going to become that kind of a character. He's going to become better. He's going to elevate himself, right? And then finally, of course, he returns with the elixir, which is he comes to the top of Pride Rock and he rules now in his father's stead. And all is right in Pride Rock again. So you see how all the wrongs became right, right? So another story, Lightning McQueen. I love the story of Cars, where, Lightning McQueen in his ordinary world, all he wants is to win the Piston Cup, right? And so this is like his big achievement. So in this situation, it's not righting a wrong, but it's achieving. So off he goes to go, win this Piston Cup. And of course, he goes on all this epic journey and things, and he finds all of his friends and Mater, and he goes through all these trials. But at the end, when he could achieve the Piston Cup, when he actually could get it, what does he do? His friend had kind of sped out or something previously and kind of crashed. And so instead of him winning at the very end, he transformed into going back and helping his friend instead. And so that's the full transformation. When he came back, he's a new character. The reason I tell you this, the reason I explain the hero's journey and how it is and I go Google it. You will fall into a rabbit hole. You will be like, oh my gosh, I never knew this existed. But every movie you watch thereafter will just be like, it will blow you away. And so as you go through the story arc of seeing the character rise to this new elevation and become the hero in the story, and you always feel good at the end, right? But why? Why do we pay, so much money to go watch movies? Why do movie makers like pay millions of dollars to make the movies? Why do we read books? Why do we watch TV episodes? The reason why is because it's all based on the human experience. It's all based on things that we can see ourselves. So when Luke Skywalker has this call to adventure to go rescue, Princess Leia, we feel like we're in Luke Skywalker's shoes. We want to go rescue her. We want to go on that adventure, because in our own lives, we may feel like we're not living the adventure, right? And we are not becoming who we truly want to be. And we want to elevate. We want to achieve the big goals. We want to transform into who we're made to be. But we may not see ourselves fully as the hero in our own story yet. So as I got my writing coach, and I knew that even though this was a true story I was writing, I wanted to write it in the frame of the hero's journey framework, because it was a framework that had proven success upon all books, all movies, everywhere. That when you can show your character going through these steps, the audience is rooting for you, right? The book becomes engaging. It reads like a fiction book, even though it's true. And as I was mapping out my own journey of going up to Hope, Idaho, I was like, oh my gosh, my own journey literally reflected the hero's journey. This is insane. And so I was starting to map each of this circle arc, right, of the hero's journey. I'm starting to map it to my experience going up to Hope, Idaho. And let me explain how this works. So there I was in the ordinary world. In last episode, you heard all about the ordinary world, right? Overworked, overweight, not spending time with my family, working 24/7, and not stepping into the Bring the Mothers Home movement, which was my true calling, but I was refusing to do it. So here I was in a not very happy state, right? That was my ordinary world. Call to adventure. The vision of the mountains, lakes, and evergreens. Oh my gosh, I could have this amazing thing. I could go live a better life, my best life, if I chose to walk it. Refusal of the call. Oh, that's going to be a hard journey. I don't think I can do that, right? But then meeting the mentor. I had some mentors come into my life to be able to help me start that health journey. And also I found the house on 8 acres in the middle of the mountains, covered with evergreens on a lake, right? And that was also the mentor. Crossing the first threshold, we closed and signed the docs, right? And we closed on the house and we entered this new world of Northern Idaho because we used to live in Arizona at the time and we moved up to Northern Idaho. So there we went into the special world and it was completely unlike the desert of Arizona. It was up about 30 minutes from the top of Canada. And we were, at this time it was summertime, but it was going to be winter soon. And all the tests that came in, the enemies, the allies, the house became this enemy where it was a 1932 homestead and we thought that we could, restore it for $100,000. It ended up being over $200,000, almost bankrupted us. And through the process, wanting to do retreats up in the mountains for women to help them come home. And realizing that our neighbors, which we lived in an HOA of 8 acres, and they were refusing to let us do retreats. And all of these things, right? It's like all these tests, right, are like chipping at us like, oh, you thought you're going to go live your best life? Haha, that's funny, right? Actually, but I still wanted to do retreats, but we got to the ordeal, which is about the 50% mark, right? And it was wintertime. And I was coming down from the mountain, down the steps into our home, broke my foot, just stepped on a step wrong and broke my foot, ended up in our house for 2 months, could not leave the house because our home was completely now covered with, 6-foot snowbanks. My husband and kids could leave the house, but I couldn't because all these steps and I had broken my foot. I couldn't put weight on it and couldn't get out of the house. So for 2 months, I sat in my house, the absolute, darkest nights and crying out to, I thought this was supposed to be my best life. Why am I here? Right? What we were supposed to be doing retreats on this land. What is this next step of the Bring the Mothers Home movement? Because it doesn't feel like this. And during that process, though, I shed the parts of me about business, about my beliefs in, obtaining the X amount of money equals happiness, and realizing these were such false beliefs inside of me, but I had to shed them. I had to go through these difficult things. And then coming up to the reward of having homeschooling my children that next summer for a full month and just having so much joy in it, right? And everything was great. And then the road back, we realized that was actually not our forever home. What services we needed for our son were not available up in Hope, Idaho. And we knew we had to come home back to Arizona to be able to help him. So on we went, the road back home. But when we got to Arizona, here's the kicker. Here's the kicker of this whole story. When we got to Arizona, we realized, oh, life is going back to more normal. Like Joy's working again 24/7. Like Joy's figuring out what the next step is in preschool system. She's not changing. She's not joining. She's not stepping into the Bring the Mothers Home movement. She's not becoming who she needs to be to go lead that. And I stayed the same. Went back to DoorDash, went back to, sitting on my bed, working 24/7. Kids are in school now. I'm not homeschooling. Nothing changed. So you see that last step, the crucial step of any hero's story is the resurrection. It's the full transformation. Did you really change? Did you truly learn the lesson that you needed to learn? And in last episode, we talked about if you don't learn the lesson will keep repeating itself over and over and over. So there I was again, back in Arizona, after having gone through this transformative experience, but not actually transforming. Yes, I shed the parts of business that weren't me, but then guess what? I picked them right back up and I put them back on me. And I was like, this is still who I am because I was so fearful of actually stepping into my true calling. And so I picked them up and put them back on. Didn't fully transform. So as I'm writing my book, as I'm like writing the book proposal, I'm having this idea in my head. I'm like, wow, a great ending to this book proposal would be, hey, I fully transformed and I ran my 5th marathon and I became the person I was meant to be. And I stepped into the leader of the Bring the Mothers Home movement. And that'll be the ending of my book. But in January 2023, just about 7 months ago, as I'm writing the book proposal, I said to myself, you have not transformed. You have not finished the journey. Like, you cannot write this book. You have not qualified yourself to finish this book. You got to go you got to go walk the walk. So you got to go live your full transformation so you can go write the ending to your book. Well, again, what happened? January, February, March, all these months keep going and I keep cycling because I can't fully transform. This addiction is so freaking hard to me, right? Like, I can't get over it. Nothing is coming to me to solve this problem, and I'm trying. So, in May, just about 5 to 7 weeks ago, right? At the end of May this year, I felt inside of me, I had to step into a new identity. I was tearing myself apart. My mind was here. My body was here. I felt like I was constantly at war with myself in my mind. Maybe you feel the same way, of just at odds with yourself. You are incongruent. You are not in alignment with what you're doing and what you're supposed to be doing. And in that feeling of just complete tearing myself apart, I knew I needed to fully transform, but I had no path forward on how to do it. I read books on identity and books on identity shifts and how to become, who you're supposed to be and become the future self now. And like, I read all these books and it still wasn't quite making sense to me. Like, I've heard this kind of stuff before. Like, this is good, but like, shoot, it's not coming to me. It's not, I wish and then I thought, wait a second. Remember the hero's journey framework that is built upon the human experience. We root for these characters because we want to be the characters. We want to have the goals. We know there's goals in our life. We want to achieve the goals. We want to transform into better versions of ourselves. Like, we want to come back with lessons that we can share to contribute. Like, that is the human experience. The reason books, movies, and TV episodes are so popular, are so successful, is because they're literally built on that human experience. We see ourselves through the character's eyes and we wish we could be like that in our own life. Yes? And so with that, I asked the question, and this was a little bit before May 26th. And I said, what if we could script out our own lives? What if we could become the character in our own story? What if we could write the ending to our own story and therefore walk a framework and know that the fear is going to come hitting us as soon as we have the call to adventure? We're going to refuse. We're going to be scared. We're going to have the fear come in. Just like when the call to adventure comes, the next step is refusal of the call because of fear. What if we could just map ourselves on that journey? What if we could say, hey, this is the goal I want to achieve. I'm going to go step out. I had the call to adventure and know with the certainty that fear is going to come right next. And how then do we overcome the fear? What if there was a path to help us overcome the fear that was coming in the next step? What if then, what if the next step was to meet the mentor, to find the tools, right? To get the tools in the map for this path. What would the tools in the map be? What would we need? What if we almost knew that we needed maps and tools and they almost came to us at that exact time because we were calling them, we were seeking them? What if then, when we finally had the map and the tools and we met the mentor and we could cross that threshold with a certainty in our mind, knowing that we are now committed? We have committed to go on this journey. And with that commitment, we cross the first threshold and we enter the unknown world, right? Because now we have begun the journey, right? We had to prepare first, but now we have begun. But as soon as you commit, what happens right after? You hit the test, the enemies, and the allies stage, which means that as soon as you commit, as soon as you cross that threshold, as soon as you say, I'm going to do this thing with such a certainty in yourself, the next very step is tests. The next very step is trials. What if you could map yourself and say, that's okay. I'm in the testing stage. I'm in the trial stage. I know that. And therefore, knowing that, you could say, I'm going to use the tools that my mentor gave me, and I'm going to get through the tests, and I'm going to get through the trials, and I'm going to keep going. Because, my friends, this I know to be true is that at the refusal of the call stage, when you have all the fears coming to you, You're holding yourself back because you're scared. You're holding yourself back. But when you get to the test and the trial stage, my friends, that is where you keep giving up over and over and over, and you cycle and you repeat, and you never fully transform because you didn't learn the lesson. You didn't keep going. You didn't overcome the trials. You didn't overcome the fear. You keep giving up on yourself. And so I said, that's the problem. I'm holding myself back with fear. And once I do finally get enough gumption to start, then I give up on myself after the first trial. What if there was something, a map, a framework that we could follow, the tools, the map to know how to overcome this? What if I could just map myself to the journey and know that this is expected? This is part of it. Instead of, in hindsight, when I'm writing my book and I'm realizing, oh my gosh, wow, look, in the past 2 years, here's all the steps I went on. Wow, isn't that crazy that literally my last 2 years was the hero's journey framework? But I never fully transformed. I never had the resurrection. I never learned the lesson. And therefore, I'm freaking cycling over and over every day. So wait. If in hindsight, we can realize that every journey of our lives ever, every existence in our lives ever could also be mapped to the hero's journey framework. If that, then why cannot we map our future? Why can we not map the future journey we want to go on to that framework? And I told my husband, like, late one night, I was like, what about this? What if we could like map out, and what if we could look to the stories about how did the characters overcome the fear? Because clearly every character in Ever got to the refusal of the call and had the fear come in them, and they said, I don't know that I can do this. And every character ever found a way to get over it. What if inside of the stories was the answers? What if literally in every story ever is the answer to how we can overcome our fear? What if then, as they go through their tests and they got the tools and the map from the mentor, what if we could look to the stories and say, how did the characters overcome the tests in the test stage? How'd they do that? How'd they overcome the ordeal in the 50% ordeal stage? How'd they do that? What if the answers were inside of every story ever? What if all we had to do was go seek the answers? And I came to him that night and I was like, this is a really cool idea. I said, I wonder if it's got any legs. And he's like, that's a really cool idea. I was like, I know, that's super cool. I was like, I wonder. And so I started researching into it, started looking into it. And then, as anything happens, guess what happened? I got a little scared. That was my call to adventure. And then the refusal of the call was immediately like, who are you? Like, what do you think you can do by doing this story and teaching this framework and trying to prove that you could actually script your own ending? You could write the next, journey of your life, and you could script it to this, and who are you? And so what did I do? I immediately fell back into the ordinary world. And then one night I remember him saying, like, so what about that idea? And I was like, yeah, that's a cool idea. And we left it at that. But fast forward to May 26th of this year, 2023. I was kind of in my head at this stage, and I was kind of living my own little ordinary world journey of cycling. And my mentor, Russell Brunson, my mentor, he put out this challenge, and he said, hey, everybody, do you want to speak at Funnel Hacking Live? Now, I did not know that this was going on. And in fact, I missed the call, but I saw it afterward. I saw my friends in the space. They were saying, oh, hey, I want to speak at Funnel Hacking Live, and here's my video, and can you guys help me vote this video up, and can you go tag Russell and all these things? And and I was like, oh, that's so cool. Oh, crap, I missed it. And I'm like, but I don't really have a framework for that stage yet. I don't have the framework to speak on, preschool system, or I don't know that people want to start preschools in his audience, so that doesn't really make sense. But I was thinking, and I was like, what if, Joy, this what if idea that you had about mapping your future to this framework and knowing with a certainty that you are walking straight into that refusal of the call, and you're walking straight into test, but you know it at the time, and you have received maps and tools to overcome it. What if you could finally transform this thing that has been on your heart for 10 years, needing to shed these parts of you that are not you? realizing you are not an introvert, realizing you thrive around people, realizing that, this is not who you truly are, Joy. Who you truly are is this beautiful light, this, social butterfly. That's actually who you are. That's who you used to be 10 years ago. You love to talk to people. And you had this light inside of you that all you wanted to do was share it with people, not just online, but in real life. And you love speaking. And in fact, you thrived. You did your preschools, and you had your graduations with 800 people in the audience, and you were on stage, to 800 people in the audience. Like, you've done that, Joy, but you shed that whenever you sold your preschool. But that's who you are at your core. What if you could get back to that? What if you could finally become who you actually are meant to be, who God made you to be, so you could go help other people? Because if this was a problem for you for 10 years, if this was a problem for you, with all the knowledge that I have, with all the education I've received, with all the mentorship I've received, if this has still been a problem for me and I fully could not transform, there has got to be other women who are struggling with this as well. And so on May 26th, my husband and I, we went to Joe's Farm Grill in Gilbert, Arizona. And me, in my ordinary world, said to him again, we were talking about my good friend Catherine Jones and how she had, put out her video to go speak on stage. I was like, I'm so pumped for Catherine. I'm like, cheering her on. Like, I want her to jump on stage at Funnel Hacking Live and be there. She'd be there for her third time. And I was like, I would love to be able to have something so transformative to share with others that they would be able to, that I could qualify for myself for that stage, that I could qualify to earn the right on that stage as well. And I said, Michael, I really do believe there's something there in that what if question that I asked before. What if we could script our life? What if we could know the trials, the fears that we were going to go through, and not necessarily know that what they were, but know that they were coming and how to get through them and how to keep going. And what if I could finally transform, Michael, and I could stand on stage a year later and share my transformation of how this framework helped me to transform after 10 years of never being able to fully step into my identity, my true self. I said, that would be something. I said, what if not only did I prove it for myself, but then I helped thousands of other women over the next year to fully transform themselves as well. I said, I would like to go on that journey. And in fact, I need to. I believe this is my next step. And I believe this is literally being put here as my mentor, as God is giving me this idea that, Joy, this might just work. This might be the thing for you. This might be the thing to finally help you shed the parts of you so that you can finally go serve the true mission I've been calling you to do the whole time, just to bring the mothers home. And so with that, we went on a walk, and we went on this huge walk, and I'm texting in my phone, and I'm like, oh my gosh. And I would say this on stage for the beginning, and I would say this, and I would look this way, and I would be this different, and I would have helped thousands of women. And I was going there in my head. I was visualizing myself at the Funnel Hacking Live stage in fall 2024. And of course, Russell would have to, of course, choose me. So, but regardless, I was visualizing it. I had this compelling future. I visualized myself as having fully transformed, knowing that there was going to be fears and tests that would be coming right along the way. But I started that. The call to adventure came. Yes, it was like right there. It was like, I could do that. Not only I could do it, I must do it. And so May 26th, I am on the top of the mountain. Like, I am so peaked with excitement and energy, having full faith and confidence that I can go on this journey and succeed. Whereas so many other times I had full faith and confidence in myself, and of course, failed along the way a gazillion times over 10 years. But this time I felt was different. And so we go home, and as I'm on the peak, let's do this. And I'm visualizing myself and Michael's like, you got to document the journey. You got to document the journey. And I'm like, okay, but what should I do? Should I do a YouTube video? Should I do a blog? Should I do a podcast? And I'm like, it's May 26th. And I'm like, I don't know what to do, Michael. He's like, I don't know. You'll figure it out. I'm like, but I got to figure it out for tomorrow, because tomorrow I'm going to start and I need to document tomorrow. So what am I documenting tomorrow? How am I doing this? He's like, I don't know, but you'll figure it out. So with the confusion in my head, I was at, this moment. Oh my goodness, this is getting to be a long podcast episode. I'm wondering if we should cut it right here. Nope. I want to keep going. Oh, I want to keep going, friends. Should we cut it? This is such a long episode. We're going to cut it right here. But here's what I want you to know. Coming up tomorrow, I will share how as soon as I had that, at the peak, the call to adventure, what if I could do that? Within hours, that refusal, that reluctance of the call immediately crept in with the, who are you? Who are you to think that you could stand on stage at Funnel Hacking Live, to think that you could be in front of 5,000 people, to think that Russell would ever ask you, to think that that you can fully who are you? Look at every other name that he has speaking on stage, right? Look at all the people who have qualified themselves to earn the right on that stage. And here you are in the beginning. Who are you? And that immediately came. And even though I was mapping myself to the framework, I'm like, it overcame me. And I went to bed feeling full of like, who am I? And this is probably not going to work anyways. And how could I go on this? How could I fully transform again after so many failed attempts? Okay, I'm going to keep going. Okay, let's just finish it. Okay, so then that was that night. And the next morning, Michael's like, okay, so you're doing this? Like, what are you going to, how are you going to document? And I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to document. And also all these people are so amazing. And who am I? And so like, I just don't think and he's like, that's the refusal of the call. You know that. And I'm like, I know, but, and I'm like shaking in my boots with fear and all these things. And so for days, I'm just like in my head and so like overcome with fear and just like, and I can't do this. And finally on June 1st, and after days of receiving these downloads, like we're going on walks every day and I'm receiving these downloads of ideas of how it could happen, but I'm still in this like reluctant state. But I'm like, but here's these really cool frameworks that are coming to me and they must mean something. And I'm just furiously every day, like writing them in my notes and putting them in my my phone and my computer and just like notes upon notes of just like ideas that are just flowing through me in the days leading up to June 1st. And then one of those beautiful ideas that I had, the frameworks that came to me was, of course, a previous framework which was, what if food is not just food? And we'll actually go, I haven't taught you that one yet. So we'll go through that in a second or a future episode. But what if food is not just food for you? What if food has become so much more than just food? What if it has been meeting your needs in such a way for so long, so perfectly, so easily, so quickly, for so long that anytime you have a bad emotion, you instantly go to food to solve it. What if? And that was all I needed. That was the first framework that I needed to be able to start that journey. And so June 1st, with that in mind, knowing that I needed to meet my needs in a different way, that was the problem. Oh my gosh, I'll tell that framework later. But let me just quickly keep going here. Frameworks upon frameworks, downloads upon downloads. Just I'm finally like meeting the mentor. Like, thank you, God. Like, all of these ideas are flowing through me of the tools, the map, the how I'm going to get through the fear, the how I'm going to get through the test. Like, these are the things I never had before. So clearly it means something. And so as I, June 1st said to the world, I'm doing this. And I took a video of myself because I decided I'll document every week with a video. And those are private videos for my inner circle, but who are going on this journey with me. But I document, I'm like, I'm going on my Phoenix journey. It's June 1st. Woohoo. Like, I'm so excited, and I'm going to go run my first marathon or fifth marathon. And I'm going to, da-da-da-da-da-da. Lots was still to be learned, but I started the journey. I crossed that threshold on June 1st. And what did I immediately land in? Tests. Immediately on June 2nd. So June 1st, we go off to the beach, and immediately I land in tests. And I've got so many stories to share with you, but I won't share them here. I immediately land in tests. But I'm learning frameworks upon frameworks as I'm continuing to walk through this. And I'm like, oh my gosh, yes, I failed here. But guess what? I'm staking my progress. I'm going to continue. And I kept going. And I kept going through those tests when previously I would have failed. And I kept going, had the darkest night 2.5 weeks in, ready to give it up, ready to just give everything up. At 2.5 weeks, ready to give up on myself again, like I have so many times in the past, but I kept going. And now I'm in 5 weeks and 2 days. And I'll tell you, friends, it feels different. It hits different at 5 weeks in because I've kept going, where in so many times I would not have kept going. And I have the frameworks, I have the map, I have the tools to keep me going, which I never had before. And I've taught people this framework, and I taught them at the 3-day in-person retreat, and they're changing their lives in the same way that I did. They're on this journey too. And they're 2 and 3 weeks in as well. And it's transforming my life. And so finally, as we get to this resurrection stage, as we finally, have this moment when we can fully transform, I'm getting there, friends. I know this to be true, that the Phoenix journey. So that's why I called it the Phoenix journey, because I have tools and frameworks and ideas that is based on the hero's journey framework, but you have to focus on the full transformation, the rebirth. That's why I called it the Phoenix journey. Because if you don't solve that, if you don't get to that final stage and finally shed every part of you that is not you and fully transform into who you're supposed to be, into who you're made to be, who God made you to be, your true self, if you do not do that, you will cycle over and over and over again. So friends, I have so much to share with you, and I just could speak for like literally all day long about this. In fact, I do have a virtual retreat coming up on Monday, August 7th. I can't wait for you to attend it. But I'm going to keep talking to you. I'm going to keep going live here every day. So here we go. All I have for you is this point is that if you feel called, if you feel like you're made for more, if you know that there's something out there for you, but you are not the person yet to go achieve that, to go transform into that, it can begin as easily as today by making a commitment like, I don't know how this is going to work out, but I'm going to walk forward with this. And I'm going to keep helping you through the frameworks, okay? So I'm walking you through literally my journey, and I will walk you through every single framework that I had to get me through this. So you keep showing up every single day. I'll give you a new framework, okay? Okay, I'm so pumped. Okay, so here's what I need your help, please. We just got to number 67 on Apple Podcasts. Are you kidding me? Last night I checked. Last night, we got to number 67 on Apple Podcasts in the self-improvement category. Do you understand the power of that? We are like 6 or 7 below Marie Forleo. We are 1 above Trent Shelton. These are giant names in the industry, and we are climbing the charts because you, my friends, have helped us. You're helping us. So here's how you can keep helping us to get to the top of the charts. Keep listening to these episodes. Number 1, binge listen to every single episode if you haven't yet. It's on Apple Podcasts. The podcast is, of course, called Bring the Mothers Home. Bring the Mothers Home right there. So just search it in Apple Podcasts. Now, this is what's so important, guys, is that yes, you can listen on, Spotify or other places, but Apple is the one that, has the charts. And the higher we get, last time we launched a podcast, we got to number 7 in parenting. Holy cow, right? Like I wanted to get to top 10 in self-improvement, which is we're talking Marie Forleo. Come on now. Okay. To get up to number 10 in self-improvement, like, yeah, I need your help. So here's how you're going to help. Go open your Apple Podcast app, please. Click, search Bring the Mothers Home. And then when you find it, okay, this lights, come on now. There we go. Then click on Bring the Mothers Home podcast, okay? Once you click on it, there's a little, at the very top, it says plus follow, okay? Go ahead and click plus follow, and that's going to subscribe you to the show, okay? That Apple loves subscribers, so please subscribe to the show. Second, it's going to give you a little check mark. Good job, you did it. Second, I want you to scroll to the bottom of the podcast, and there's already like 4 amazing episodes. If you haven't listened to them yet, please go listen in, okay? You're going to love them. They are just as epic as this one. So then at the bottom, though, I need you to come down here. And my friends, if I have earned your 5 stars, if you have learned something, if you have been, feeling, oh my gosh, there's something here for me, right? This is helping me, Joy. If I've earned your 5 stars, would you please give us a 5-star rating, right? All you do is you just select all the stars and it will say 5 stars, rating added. Good job. Thank you. And then if you could write a review. So right below that, there's a thing that says write a review. Go ahead and click on write a review. There it is. Okay. Da, 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 da. And then you can just write a couple words about it. So Apple loves subscribers, ratings like 5 stars if I've earned it, and reviews. They love reviews. Okay. So write some nice words. I already wrote my review, and then just go ahead and click send. And then finally, the last thing I ask is for you to listen to the episodes. Of course, Apple loves listens and downloads. That's just the name of the game, right? Finally, the last thing is, would you please share this podcast? Because we are one person, right? We are just one person who can listen to this and subscribe and rate and review. But if we share it with others, more people can subscribe, rate, review, and listen and be blessed, and therefore can help us to keep climbing up the charts so more people know about this podcast. I need this to spread the world. I need this to just help every woman ever who knows that she's made for more but needs to transform. This Phoenix Journey framework, I am telling you, is literally sent to me, for you, for every woman out there who needs to make a change and actually have it last. And I'm so excited to be able to share it with you, but you have the potential to share it. So go to joyanderson.com to be able to enter our podcast contest. We're going to give away $1,000 cash. And in fact, guys, if you get me above top 50, I will start adding in new prizes starting on Monday. And every day you keep rising me on the charts, I'm going to add more prizes and more prizes and more prizes just to make this the most epic podcast contest ever. We're starting it out. But you get me to that top 50, we're going to keep adding prizes, okay? Oh, I'm so excited. So go to joyanderson.com, click on that bright pink button at the top to be able to enter our podcast contest and win $1,000 cash. Plus, you might even win other bonuses and prizes because, of course, we're going to get to that top 50. And I want to get us to that top 10. So let's help each other out. All right, friends, until tomorrow. Tomorrow, I'm going to come back with the very first framework that I learned. The framework about, holy cow, I have broken commitments to myself for so many years. I have no confidence. How in the world could I ever have confidence to go chase a giant dream if I don't even trust myself right now? I don't trust myself to go accomplish a dream because I've broken every other promise for 10 years. We're going to talk about how to gain confidence in your life by making and keeping commitments to yourself. And how do you do that? All right, friends, until next time, same time,